What if I told you that the worst night of your life might be the very reason you find your purpose? What if the moment you thought it was all over was actually where your real journey began? Tonight, I want to take you somewhere raw, somewhere real. I want you to walk with me through a night so dark I thought I would never see the morning. But what happened next was even more terrifying than death, because it wasn't the darkness that broke me, it was the silence after. It wasn't the pain that crushed me, it was the emptiness that followed. And just when I thought there was nothing left to live for, I discovered something that shook me to my core. Not from a therapist, not from a motivational speaker, not even from the world around me, but from a book I had ignored my entire life. A book that science is now confirming holds truths no one expected. This is not just another story. This is not just another speech. This is the unraveling of everything I thought I knew about myself, about life, and about the universe. And if you've ever felt like you're at your breaking point, if you've ever cried in silence and begged for answers in the dark, then don't move. Don't scroll. Don't blink. Because what you're about to hear just might change how you see your pain and your purpose forever. Stay with me until the very end. I promise it will be worth it. That night I thought I had died. Not in the dramatic way that movies show you with flashing lights or echoing hospital sirens, but in the most silent, terrifying way a soul can break when you're fully conscious, yet nothing inside you feels alive. It was a night like no other, where the weight of everything I had suppressed, ignored, denied, and numbed for years crashed down on me like a tsunami of truth. The room wasn't spinning, but my reality was. My breath was still flowing, but my spirit had stalled. I wasn't bleeding, but something deep inside me was pouring out like an open wound that no medicine could close. And as I lay there, staring at the ceiling, the silence wasn't peaceful, it was deafening. That silence whispered, "It's over." That silence convinced me that if this is life, then maybe I'm already dead. There's a moment only those who have truly hit bottom will understand, where the pain isn't physical, but it feels more excruciating than any injury you've ever had. It's when your soul begins to scream, but your lips remain shut. It's when every thought you have contradicts your worth, your future, your hope. That night, my mind became a courtroom. Every fear, every regret, every failure showed up to testify against me. The voice that used to encourage me turned into a prosecutor, detailing how I messed up everything, how I disappointed everyone, how I wasted years of potential. And the verdict it reached? That I wasn't worth saving, that I wasn't worth living, that I didn't deserve another sunrise. I didn't cry, not because I didn't want to, but because my body had forgotten how. I didn't pray, not because I didn't believe, but because I thought God had stopped listening. People think death is when your heart stops, but I think real death happens when your will gives up. That night, my will, my fight, died. I surrendered, not in peace, but in resignation. The lights were still on in my room, but the lights in my soul were flickering out, one by one. I tried to find a distraction. I turned on my phone, but the scrolling felt pointless. I opened old photos, but they stabbed me more than they comforted me. I tried to listen to music, but even the lyrics that once lifted me now felt like lies. Everything felt like a lie. The world felt fake. My life felt fake. The smiles I gave, the unfine answers I gave, the brave face I wore, all of it a performance. And now, the stage had collapsed. The curtains had fallen. And the actor had no more lines to speak. What made it worse is that I didn't know what had triggered this. There was no one specific event, no sudden heartbreak, no tragedy, just an accumulation of quiet disappointments, a slow erosion of identity. Day by day, I had chipped away at myself trying to fit into boxes, to please people, to chase validation, to avoid confrontation. Until one day, I woke up and didn't recognize the person in the mirror. That night, I didn't feel like a person at all. I felt like a shadow, a leftover, a shell of what once was a child, full of dreams and light, and no matter how loud I screamed inside, the world outside remained oblivious. Isn't that the cruelest irony? You can be surrounded by people and yet feel like no one sees you. You can be applauded and yet feel like a fraud. You can smile for photos while mentally scripting your final goodbye. That's where I was. That's who I was. Or rather, who I had become. And in the dark, I started talking to the ceiling. Not to God directly, at least not intentionally, but just venting because I couldn't hold it in anymore. I said things like, "What do you want from me? Why did you even put me here? What's the point of waking up if I don't even know who I am anymore? Do you even care?" The questions weren't rhetorical, they were real, aching, desperate. My voice didn't echo in the room, but it echoed in my chest, shaking something loose. I was angry, not just at life, but at the one who gave it to me. And yet in that strange cocktail of anger and sadness, a thread of sincerity formed, because even though I was lashing out, I was still reaching out. That night, I realized something brutal. Sometimes hitting rock bottom is the only way God can get your full attention. I didn't expect answers. I didn't expect miracles. I just wanted the pain to stop. But there was no thunder from the skies, no warm divine light shining through my window, no voice whispering guidance, just the same silence. But now it felt slightly different. It didn't feel like abandonment. It felt like listening, like maybe, just maybe, someone heard me. I was still too numb to move, too heavy to cry, too lost to act, but the smallest seed of something different was planted in that moment. Not hope, not yet, but permission. Permission to feel, permission to question, permission to not be okay. That night, I thought I had died, but perhaps what was really happening was a burial of all the lies I believed about myself. A burial of the performance, a burial of the version of me that never truly lived. Sometimes life doesn't take you out with a bang. Sometimes it quietly dismantles you piece by piece until all that remains is the truth. And when you reach that point, when you're surrounded by the rubble of your identity, you realize something life-changing. You now have the rare opportunity to rebuild. Not to patch up the old, but to start fresh. But at that moment, lying on my bed that night, I didn't know any of that. All I knew was pain, and if pain could scream, mine was roaring, but underneath the roar, something else had begun to whisper, a whisper that would only grow louder in the days to come, a whisper that came not from my mind, but from my soul, a whisper that said, "This isn't the end, it's the beginning." That whisper had to fight through layers of hopelessness, fatigue, and emotional exhaustion. Because that night, every logical thought told me I wouldn't make it to the morning. Every part of me was ready to fade away, not dramatically, but silently. I wasn't suicidal in the way people imagine, but I no longer had the energy to care if I lived. That in its own way is a form of death. A slow, invisible suffocation of purpose. I lay there, waiting for something, anything, to save me. And I wasn't sure if anything would. I wanted someone to knock on my door. I wanted a phone call. I wanted a miracle. But none came, just the darkness, just the stillness, just the unbearable weight of being. And yet the night passed. Whether I liked it or not, the morning came, not with celebration, but with confrontation. What greeted me wasn't relief. It was worse than the night before. But what I didn't know then was that this cycle of spiritual death and rebirth had just begun. And everything, the silence, the collapse, the scream inside, was not a sign that life had ended. It was a sign that life was about to speak to me in a language I had never truly listened to before. A language not made of words or sounds, but of truth. A truth hidden not just in the pain, but in something that had been near me all my life, unopened, unexplored, underestimated. And that truth had a name I hadn't dared consider fully until then: the Quran. But before I could discover that, I had to walk through this personal night of the soul. I had to experience the crumbling of my self-image, the dismantling of my false strength, the disintegration of my illusions. Because truth cannot enter a heart that's already full of noise. And that night, the noise finally died. What remained was silence. And that silence became the soil in which truth could be planted. I didn't know it then, but that night wasn't my death. It was my real beginning. So when I say that night I thought I had died, I don't just mean it metaphorically. I mean it in every way. The soul can feel shattered beyond repair. But what happened the next morning wasn't just worse because it brought more pain. It was worse because it brought the truth. And the truth, as painful as it is always what saves us. That night stripped me down, exposed every illusion I clung to, and forced me to face myself without filters, excuses, or masks. And it was in that absolute collapse, in that silent surrender, that something unshakable began to awaken in me. Not comfort, not healing, not even clarity yet, but a sacred curiosity. A hunger for answers that the world could not give. And in the days that followed, that hunger led me to places I never imagined, including the pages of the Quran. What I once saw as just a book for others became the key to unlocking a version of myself I had buried under years of pain. Because the real miracle wasn't that I survived that night. It was that I woke up to a truth bigger than myself. A truth that science is only beginning to confirm, but which the soul already knows. We are not accidents, that we are not forgotten, and that even in our darkest hour, especially in our darkest hour, there is a message waiting to be discovered. All it takes is the courage to listen to everyone who's been there, to the edge of their own soul. I want to say this: you're not alone. Your collapse isn't your end, it's your rebirth. Keep walking. Keep searching. And above all, never be afraid to question, because sometimes the most shocking discoveries aren't just in science or scripture, but in yourself. Thank you for allowing me to share this journey with you, and whatever you're going through right now, I hope you find the strength to rise, not because it's easy, but because it's necessary. Good luck on your journey, and may your next morning be the start of something greater than you ever imagined.